Welcome to 365 Brothers. Today, we are having an intimate conversation with a costume designer and wardrobe stylist with 17 years experience. He is also a lifestyle designer. He's based in Los Angeles. Please let me share with you Mr. Moon McClean. Welcome, Moon.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Robin. Nice to be here.
My pleasure. Moon, I did a very basic introduction of you. Is there anything else that you'd like to share about yourself before we get into the interview questions?
Yes. I discovered what I like to call my purpose, because it was something that kept showing up as I interacted with the talent as well as even people on the crew. One particular time was with Halle Berry on a photo shoot. And during that time, I had not known anything about what was going on in her life or really much about her. But during that time together, she had overheard me having a conversation with the Glam Squad, which is the hair, makeup, and wardrobe team. And she was in the chair getting her hair, makeup done. And she kept trying to turn around to see who was saying these things, which coming from me. And after she had finished getting her hair and makeup done, she pulled me aside and she wanted me to elaborate on some of the things that I had been talking about. And in that conversation, it was just Moon, spiritual, enlightened life stuff. Whatever it is that I was saying, it resonated with her. I just started telling her about her own life. And one of the things I said is that she needed to find her own personal empowerment in her life and not let it be dictated by who was giving her a job or who was sitting across from her. It was like her own personal strength and her own personal identification with herself. From her response, I knew that it was something that was very directly related to her personally and her life. And because of that, and because of things like that had been happening so many times, just during my life, but very specifically while I was styling people, and something that stood out to me was how that felt to me. The energy, vibration of empowering someone, strengthening someone, enlightening someone, it lightened me and it highlighted me and it put some sunshine and light and beauty in my own personal body as I was doing that. And it was just clear to me that that was my purpose, to empower others.
There's this energy exchange that's happening and you're pouring out what you have to offer. It is life-giving for you at the same time that it may be inspiring, helpful, empowering to the person you're speaking to.
Yes, absolutely.
I totally get that. That's really cool. Moon, what is your favorite song, either right now or all time?
My favorite song of all time is Be a Lion from The Wiz. And one of the things that happens to me every single time I listen to that song, even today, I listened to it 3 times, it makes me cry. It's this harsh, challenging, chaotic description of nature when Diana Ross is talking to the lion. But in that chaos, aggressive nature, there's this calmness and there's this sensitivity in some words that are used, actually calmness in the air and a rainbow in the sky and there's lightning, but there's no need to be frightened. You got this. Mm-hmm. You're safe. The comforting of the song is that there's this gentle assistance on that journey of life, knowing that you're okay, that all is well, and that you got this. Because whatever it is that I'm going through, I'm protected, I'm comforted, and it's okay. And this allows me to continue the journey through. So,
I love that. So tell me about a favorite childhood memory.
I was under 10 years old, and my aunt, she would bring me a treat home from work. And she worked at the post office, and she was working from 4 to 12 because I knew that it was an hour. By the time she got home, everyone in the house would be sleeping. And I would fall asleep on the couch downstairs, waiting for her to come into the house to bring me this treat. And she would bring me a pack of M&Ms, or she would bring me a small pack of Oreo cookies. And it was just like she was bringing me the world. It was just so amazing. Now I look back at that thing she brought me. I knew that at the time I didn't think about this, but I knew that she just got it out of the vending machine. Just little, probably 25-cent thing out of the vending machine meant the world to me.
So who was this aunt for you? Like,
She is my mother's sister. I was in junior high school. Instead of coming directly home from school, me and a friend of ours stopped at these girls' house. But I always came straight home because I was really raised, really being very disciplined. So when I didn't come straight home that day, that was really out of the norm. So, and that made her worry. And she walked up to my school, which is in the neighborhood, but was several blocks away, looking for me. And by the time she got back home, I had made it back home. I haven't got a lot of whippings in my life because haven't been a bad kid. But she gave me a spanking. I think she pulled me up on my ears. And she spanked me. She made me clean the leaves out of the yard. And then I thought it was over. And she said, no, you're not done. Now what you're going to do is go to every single neighbor and tell them, not ask them that you're sweeping up their leaves. Tell them you're doing that. And my friend who I went with, he now came by. He was all ready to hang out, but I couldn't. And for some reason, even though it was kind of a punishment, even as a little child, as a 12-year-old, I really didn't look at it that way. I saw this person worried about me, and I was like, wow, this wasn't a good choice. So she was someone that just constantly did that for me in my life, and even fast forward into now that I'm an adult and she's an adult, we caught up in age, she listens to me. Like, she allows me to be an adult alongside with her. But at the same time, when I say it, I've said to her, like, you have contributed to me being this adult that I am. And so you can't not expect me not to be wise. She empowers me, allows me to be empowered.
That's great. I love hearing that about your aunt. So now I'm going to ask you about accomplishments. And I ask this question in two parts. I first want to know about an accomplishment that means a great deal to you personally. And then an accomplishment that seems to be impressive to the world. Sometimes they're the same things, but sometimes they're not. So let's start with the one that's most important to you personally.
I worked on this project called Where's My Shoe? It was a documentary that a filmmaker put together. It was a series of projects that she was doing with group homes. She started with all-girl group home. And me, as a costume designer, she reached out to me to be a part of this project as a costume designer, which she got a whole bunch of creatives together, writers, producers, directors, costume designer, hair, makeup, wardrobe people. And we were to put together a film with these girls. And they would be matched up with someone, an area that they were interested in. And so a girl who wanted to do wardrobe got matched up with me. We would do this film with them and take them through the whole process of casting, writing, and shooting a film. So when we first met with the girls, they introduced, and every time I'm glad it's not on camera. Every time I talk about this, I get emotional. It's so empowering.
It's okay. It's all right.
So the first time I met with the girls, now these were little young girls in high school and younger. Oldest girl was like 17 years old. And these girls had been raped and molested and in and out of jail. Like, it's like things that these girls had experienced at a young age, no one in the world should have experienced them in a lifetime. So we'd have been introduced to them. And then we came back for the second time meeting with them to start the project. And so one of the girls She says to us, y'all came back even after you knew who we are. And I was like, wow, like those girls did not think we were going to come back.
Mm, mm.
So we did this film with them, and it was just amazing. And I've done a lot of projects. I didn't even get paid on that project and put the same amount of time and energy, but it was the most purposeful project I ever did.
I can't imagine the difference that you made with those young women. So thank you.
And you're right. The thing that I thought about after that moment, when that girl said that in the very beginning, I felt that if all the things that they experienced, and hopefully they didn't continue to experience things like that in their life, that if they were to think about all their experiences and all of them up to that point were not pleasant, and that could be them looking at life as being hopeless, but then they had this. They had one thing that wasn't like that. And I could be a part of giving them that, just that one thing to think about that wasn't that. And it can make that a difference in a moment in their life when they think they had nothing that felt good. But then they had that film. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I'm moved by how moved you are. And there's something so fulfilling about touching another soul and knowing that you've had an imprint on that soul, that a positive imprint, that you've done something that forwards the growth and development of that soul. And that's what I really hear is important to you and what you do.
Yeah.
What about an accomplishment that seems to impress the world?
Me working with Beyonce. That's always it. And I usually don't even like to mention that one. And if I say that one last because it becomes distracting to them when they hear about Beyonce. They hear Beyonce. Oh my God, Beyonce! But that's the one that's impressive. But I also use that sometimes as my little wild card because working with Beyonce and having that on, people just immediately welcome me into a situation because of that, and not knowing that other one that I told you is my most favorite project. And I really thought she was really, really nice. But there was this one moment. I was putting a ring on her finger. And this is when I realized, wow, she's a powerful person. No, I was putting a bracelet on her arm. Her energy came through in that moment. And it was funny to me because I felt this thing like, wow, I was struck by something.
Yes.
By this individual. And that was special. And I'm like, wow, she's very powerful. And that was my time with her. We had a great time together, and she's really wonderful. I've seen her many times since then. Yeah.
So let me ask you this. In terms of words, what's your favorite quote, metaphor, book, saying?
I have a favorite quote and I have a favorite book, and I can just pick one of them. You want the book or the quote?
Which one do you want to share? I'll tell you what, share both.
Okay, my favorite quote is, when people show you who they are, believe them. Why that's my favorite is because if we can pay attention to that thing, and it's not even a red flag, it's just an is, it will save you some time in the future of actually saying, I can't believe this happened. You already had the example from the beginning, whatever it is.
Oh my gosh, it saves so much when you don't ignore the evidence. The evidence of who people are is right there. It's right there. So I love that. Okay, share with me your favorite book.
My favorite book is The Four Agreements. And even I have a lot of favorite books. I am a reader. Oh my God, I love to read. And if I'm reading a book and I'm getting close to the end, I don't have anxiety, but I'm like, I got to get a new book, and I'm already fishing out for the next book. But with the Four Agreements, those four things show up every day, all day, for everyone all the time. And it's only 4 things. And if people can follow those things, like really think about what these are, just 4, I just think that life would just be so harmonious going in and going out. And so much junk would never even make it to the surface, because those 4 agreements together, it's amazing. It's just 4 things. It's not even, the 10 Commandments is 10. This is 4.
I like that.
So powerful. And I'll be in a conversation with someone, life coaching them, or just having a conversation with a friend or a family member or anyone. And they could be struggling with something. And I will mention the 4 agreements. And every time as they're continuing to try to unpack this challenge, one of those 4 things just peels an onion and it gets to the core. And the only thing that stops them from that getting to the finish line, even in that little conversation with me, is because they don't want to embrace one of those 4 things. It covers the gamut.
You make me, I have it on my bookshelf. I haven't read it in a while, but your how connected you are, how simple they are, how it makes me want to go back and reread it. So who is a person, or what is a moment or an event that either changed the trajectory of your life or had a significant impact on your life?
It was a combination of something that happened in stages. And each thing that happened prior was a piece that was preparing for the next thing. So several years ago, I had my car stolen, which was so devastating. When I first got the car, I put a tracking device in the car. And 13 years later, it came in handy. And my car was found the next day. But everything was taken out of it. And I had just finished doing a project. And the next day, I was going to unload my car and put all the stuff back in storage. And I didn't. And I even thought about it as I was going in the house, just take the stuff in storage right now. And it was my last thought, and I did. I had my wardrobe kits. I had jewelry from designers. I had clothing. It was a lot of stuff within that trunk. And it was gone. And they stole my radio. But I got the car back. I'm sitting in the car after I got my car back. Everything is like gone. And one of my friends at that time, he would send me these quotes every now and then. I was on his list, and they would just come through my phone. That day, after I got my car back, I'm driving my car, and everything's gone out of it. The quote comes through my phone, and it said, "Let go of what's lost and hold on to what's left behind." Now, he didn't know anything about what happened to me. And it just happened, that went out to everyone, but that came to me. And in that moment, I experienced for the first time the essence, the soul, the core, the constant element of gratitude. Let go of what's lost, what's gone, and hold on to what's left behind. So now I had that. That was the first seed. And that was the first time I experienced the essence of it. Then the next thing that happened, I don't know how long afterwards, but I got a call from this writer, Zane. She writes these erotica books. Well, Zane, she called me to do this. She was taking one of her books on a tour, a play, and she wanted me to do the wardrobe on this tour. And I was really excited about it, and we prepared for it for weeks and weeks and weeks. And I let go of another job. It was all these little things kept lining up for me to say no to certain things and to say yes to this. Because we weren't going on the tour for a couple of months, and all these things came up, but then they would interfere. And just when I would say, well, I'm going to take this other thing, she would send me an email, or she would keep me posted of like what was happening with this tour. And because I'm very spiritual and things come from another even though she was sending me this, it came from another place because it was in this moment where I was going to just make another decision. And it just kept happening. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to do this. And I put all of it in that. At the last moment, the promoter pulled out with no real explanation. He pulled out of the tour.
Whoa.
And it wasn't so much that it was a big deal about going on a tour, because I have so many projects. Another one when it came up, it was because I trusted my spirit, the universe. I trusted something that I put all of my everything in. And so I was confused. But then prior to that, I had this experience in gratitude. And so now it's like a tool. And so now you have this tool. You need to use the tool now. I applied the gratitude energy. And I'm like, this isn't, even though I'm devastated, because now, what do I believe in now? Because the universe gave me all direction. So I don't navigate in a different way. So I'm like, so I'm off. But what you're going to do now is just rest in gratitude, in the essence of gratitude. So I had that experience. Then the last part came. It was a friend of mine, a producer friend of mine that I hadn't spoken to in a very long time. And out of the blue, she just sent me a message to get together with her. And we went out and we had dinner. And during the dinner, I think I hadn't seen her for like 3 or 4 years. In that dinner, she described her life that was parallel to everything that I had been going through in those 3 years or 4 years I hadn't seen her. Exactly. And she told me that someone mentioned to her, they said that she was having a dark night of her soul, and she mentioned this book. And I found out later she never read it. So I'm like, okay, it stood out to me, Dark Night of the Soul, I need clarity. So I went to the library to look for another book. And I spoke to the library, looked it up in the catalog, spoke to the library person. But when I went to the shelf, the book that they said was there was not there. But what was there was this, The Dark Night of My Soul.
I love that.
It was the audio. And so I got it. And I read and I listened to it, and every question that I had was answered in that audio book. So that whole journey in those 3 parts, I was so challenged, from my car being stolen to dismantling of my whole spirituality to it coming together in the end, just coming together. And that shifted the direction of my life because it strengthened my faith, just my faith.
If I had a wish that I could make for all of mankind, it would be that these little things that seem like coincidences, miracles, accidents are really just God in action. Or if you're not a believer in God, then the universe conspiring for your growth and success. And so I love hearing that story and how attuned you are again to I would say, the whispers of the universe. So thank you for sharing that.
Mm-hmm. You're welcome. Thank you.
What is an experience, moment, or event that for you signifies that experience of being a Black man in America?
Well, now, since we're in this time right now with Black Lives Matter, one of the things that I thought about was the first time that I've ever experienced racism. And in the time that I experienced it, I really didn't think about it as being racism when it happened. It was over 30 years ago. It was the beginning time of my time as a stylist. I was just exploring that. And I was going after a job, I think at a magazine. I'd put together a portfolio and I had a resume, and I applied for this position. And they contacted me, and I spoke to a woman on the phone that clearly was interested in me and told me about the job. And it was this job that was available, and I'm perfect for this job, as far as paper and on paper and even in my portfolio. Great. Even though I go by the name McClean, my name is Michael. And so it's
Okay.
Michael McClean. And and McClean is a Irish
name. Yes, it is.
And they did not think I was a Black person. And now that I was there, she tells me that there wasn't a job available, and that they were just inviting people in. But they were thinking about a job, and something was coming up. But I clearly had a conversation with this woman about there already being a job. But then when she saw me, there was no longer a job. Mm. And I didn't think about it being racism because I've never had that experience before. And I never thought about racism. I grew up around my family, Black people. I lived in a Black neighborhood. I interact with white people, and they were just people. It just never came up. But in that moment, without me connecting it to racism, the first thought I had was, it was because of me. This is happening because of me and how I look. Because obviously I presented all the credentials, but now you see me, so it's me.
And can I ask, when you thought that, what about you did you think it was?
I thought that it was me physically. I didn't connect it to something specific yet, because during that time I was also I'm gay, I'm Black, I have a different way of looking at things. I'm spiritual, I'm creative. So it was a combination of things. I didn't know what to pinpoint it in. All I knew, it was me. Like I thought I took it personal. It wasn't a collective at all. And I remember, because now that I'm thinking about it, not today, and I'm talking to you, but I've thought about it over the past couple of months. Like, that's exactly what I thought. And what it made me think about now, in these past couple of months, I started reviewing my life from that day, the compromises and the adjustments that I made because of that experience, how I navigated in the world from that moment on. Because even when I came into that interview, I had this confidence that I didn't have anymore when I left that room. And so I started unpacking how it compromised my life as a person. And then then fast forward to now, it had to do with me being Black, because that woman didn't know any of those other things about me other than the color of my skin at that moment.
Yeah.
That highlighted my situation in America as a Black man, but then it also, in thinking about now about Black Lives Matter, because now I was a Black man, but then I also with these other things. And when those other things came out, even with Black people, I wasn't just a Black person, I was gay. And so, and you also being gay, it kind of disempowers Black men. So you're a different type of Black man, and, so that now became my experience, because in America, I'm not just interacting or challenged by white people by the color of my skin. It's also my own Black people, even family members, because of my sexuality. So that to me had become my experience as a Black man, because I'm living my whole being in America, not just the part that people can see as part of the color of my skin. My cousin and godson, he's really pro-Black. I mean, he is Black before this even went down. Like, over the years, he is Black power, Black everything. Like, really, he's Black, like Black power. And he posted something on Instagram opposing a gay person, and I saw it, and I just stopped following him. And he's my godson, and he's my close cousin. Like, I love him to death. And I spoke to my aunt, his mother, my favorite relative. I spoke to her about it because it came up in a conversation. And I told her how I felt. And I told her, he knows that I'm gay. He knows that I follow him. And I understand that you're about Black power, but you posted that thing, not thinking about it, but that I'm going to see this. So you have now disempowered me, but you're all about Black power. Who is my Black power in it? And she talked to him about it, and he called me and he apologized. And I told him, don't apologize. But it's something to think about, because because the thing is, what you need to start saying is, you're not about Black power, you're about straight Black power, whatever. Don't call it Black power, because I don't fit in there. If I go around white people, for me, I'm dealing with the color of my skin around certain white people, but I'm not dealing with my sexuality because they don't necessarily care about it. But then when I get back to my Black community, they're struggling with that. And so as I go back and forth to different worlds, that's what I'm navigating.
Yeah, I appreciate you sharing that, because in other interviews, one of the things that has come up is how we define what Black is. And I'm talking about us as Black people. We have what it is to be Black. And I am someone who, there are certain things about me that have me not be Black enough, not eligible. Like, my Black card could be taken away at any moment. And so, and so it's, I'm excited about sharing the full breadth of Black men. And it is my intention and my commitment to include LGBTQ voices, because that is, if you're Black and you got a dick, you're a Black man. Right. And I know I'm treading on some water here, because I know there's transsexual and all that, but just for the sake of this conversation, I'm being very simple. I own that I'm being simple, but if you're Black and you got a dick, you're a Black man.
Right.
I mean, we have our view, and let me be clear, I'm not Miss Open-Minded all the time either. I got my little reservations about this and that, but it's for us to own and deal with it. And we all have biases and things we think of how it ought to be and who's this and who's that, but we need to at least be willing to grapple with that. If we're going to talk about Black, then let's talk about Black. If we're going to talk about Black and brown, then let's talk about Black and brown and everyone who falls into that category. I'm sorry, you just kind of, you just stirred something up when you shared that. It just touches me. So anyway.
I would say the stirring is good. We gotta stir right now. This is the time of stirring. Stirring the pot.
I agree. Have you had any experiences with law enforcement that stand out, or have they just been standard, or have you had none at all?
I've had a few. I haven't had any violent situations with law enforcement, which I'm so grateful for, because you don't even have to put yourself in situations. I don't put myself in situations like that, but clearly that's not the only way that happens. You can, but one situation that stands out to me is when I was visiting a friend in Manhattan Beach. I was trying to find her place, and I kept passing it. And then I finally realized where it was when I passed it, and I made a U-turn to go back and pull up to her place. And it was early in the morning, probably 8 o'clock in the morning. There was no traffic. I clearly watched the road and made my 3-point U-turn and continued to make my way back to her place. And then a cop car started following me. Even without this time we're in right now, even though I didn't do anything wrong, my instinct sensed something could happen. And now I was trying to avoid, get away from the police. And so, and do all the right things, just so maybe this person would stop following me. But the cop followed me, a few blocks, and finally pulled me over. And I asked him, why he stopped me, and he told me because I made that U-turn. And even since I knew that I did all the things correctly, I asked him, because I was curious, and I said, was I not supposed to make a U-turn because now I'm about to get a ticket? And I just wanted to, be clear, because if I'm going to come here again, I want to make sure I don't do that anymore. And he told me, he said, no, it was okay for you to make that turn. But when you made that turn, your wheel touched the line a little bit. And
Oh,
so he gave me a ticket. That ticket was $300, and that ticket would have put a point on my license. The good thing about it is when I went to go, because I went to check out the ticket, I wanted to know the price because none of that was on the ticket. And so I went to inquire, and it was the ticket, it hadn't shown up. But then the person at the ticket place told me how much the ticket was, and it was going to be a point. But the officer hadn't put it in yet. And the person told me that the officer had they have up to a year to put it in. He never put it in because he knew it was wrong.
oh,
But
okay.
it was and I'm glad he didn't put it in because I don't know what I would have done. But his whole thing was I was black, I was in Manhattan Beach, which I didn't really know at that point, like how Manhattan Beach is. It's like a white Beverly Hills. Even my white friend told me, don't. This is a white person. She said
Mhm.
they don't want any black people in Manhattan Beach. And my friend who lived over there, she was a big producer for BET at the time. And so there was a lot of celebrities that came to the house. And so we'd be all these, high-end cars in the driveway.
Mhm.
And she's spiritual, religious, like sweetheart person. Every single day there was police sent to that house.
Get out.
They wanted her out of there. She lived 1 block from the beach.
You know what? Okay. See, oh my gosh. So first of all, for my listeners, episode 2 has he's a cousin of mine. He's a photojournalist, an award-winning photojournalist. In episode 2, he talks about being stopped by Manhattan Beach. And I'm not trying to put Manhattan Beach on blast, but we're talking in under 20 people, 2 people have a story about Manhattan Beach. And the funny thing is I love the beach. And I've always noticed, I'm like, I know I'm not the only Black person who loves the beach. How come throughout the coastal region in California, I don't find a lot of mixed towns along the beach?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just the other day, I'm walking with my friend. I meet her up in Huntington Beach. We normally walk the Huntington way, but this time we walked towards Newport Beach. And I'm going to be honest with you. I saw the looks like, a black, black person on this side. And so it's just a trip to hear what you're saying. So anyway, so I just want to be clear here. He gave you a ticket for what? What line did your tires touch?
It hit one of the lines in the street. So the 2 lines that divide one traffic going one way and the other way. My back tire. He said it just went over the line a little bit. He said it touched the line. Your tire.
Oh, goodness.
And he was confident in like this happened several years ago. I mean, it had to be maybe 9 years ago, way before George Floyd. And this is nothing compared to that at all. But how that man was able to stop me and tell me in that way, yeah, no, you were able to turn, but your tire touched the line a little bit.
And see, this is why I know people don't like, I had a conversation with someone yesterday about how they don't like the way that the word defund the police sounds, because it's defund sounds like take all of it away. But my thing is, and this is part of why I'm doing this series also, it's why I have this question in every interview, because I'm hoping listeners who are not familiar with the ways that police stop Black Americans over minor issues. If we've got so much funding that they got time to pull people over for touching a line, which is not a safety issue, then perhaps we don't need that many of them as we currently have employed. I'm just saying.
Right, right,
I'm not, and no one's saying we don't want police. We want police. I can't speak
right,
for other people. I'll speak for myself. I want police. I want people I can call. I want people to protect the safety and well-being of the communities in which I live. I just don't want so many of them that they got time to give people tickets for touching a line on a street.
right. You're right. He shouldn't have been. He shouldn't have stopped me. I didn't do. Like I said, he said to me, "No, you actually were okay with turning there. You were okay. I didn't obstruct any traffic. I touched a line. There was no one in danger. He followed me and pulled me over. Wow.
Yeah. Wow is about all we
That shouldn't
got.
have that shouldn't have been acceptable at all. It should have been only because I put someone in danger, like, or you've been looking for me. It was just unbelievable. And that was another situation that was even when here I am going to see my friend Manhattan Beach. I wouldn't even think about Manhattan Beach. I didn't know. I became to love Manhattan Beach because I wound up staying there for like 6 months with her while we were working on a project. So I loved it. But before going there, I hadn't even thought about Manhattan Beach. Well, I knew I was going to meet my friend to start work on this project, and then I had this devastating experience that made an impact on me yet again because of who I am. And that put this very uncomfortable, fearful energy in my life every single time I had to go to Manhattan Beach. Every single time. Because that means I can just be stopped for no matter how careful I was. Every single time I got to that point where I turned to go wherever that street was, right, it's like 2 blocks from that water, and I got off off of Sepulveda Boulevard, and I went on that strip. I was very uncomfortable every single time, and that's horrible,
Yeah.
horrible. The impact, the dismantling of my spirit, because that
Yes.
person could just pull me over just because. It didn't matter what I did. It's just a
Yeah.
horrible thing, and yeah.
I appreciate you sharing that and the impact of it. And I hope in your sharing that story, it's just one more opportunity for enlightenment for those who don't quite get the impact, because it's one thing to know that Black men are stopped more often, and especially in certain communities, but I don't think people really hear or understand that it lingers. So,
Yeah.
which brings me to this question. If America was a woman, whether sister, mother, lover, wife, stranger, if America was a woman, what would you say to her?
I would say, why do white people hate us so much as Black people?
Got it. So you would ask one question.
Yeah.
Understood. Thank you.
Because I think that is an American thing. It's American. That hate is American, and it needs to be unpacked and answered and addressed, because it's it's like it's something that doesn't make any sense, but is so widespread, and it's a poison that could be changed. It's been on an ongoing poison that just continues to be put back into the system. And even as we have this in God we trust, in constitutions and all these things, but they don't speak for everyone. So it's, to me, it's kind of a white America.
Right. So broadening this out and coming at it, looking from a different perspective here. What is love to you?
Love to me is, and I'm going to use these words. Love is, and it's all these words together, is freedom, courage, adventure, compassion, communication, accountability, and enthusiasm. That's what love is.
Wow, that's pretty juicy. I mean, if that were a recipe, that's something I'd want to bite into.
And it's all of those things, because love is not just freedom. It's not just courage. It's not just an adventure. And it's not just compassion. And it's not communication or accountability or just enthusiasm. It's not something just feel good or exciting, or you get to be straight and you get to be loved and you have the freedom of having love. It's all those things together. And with courage, freedom and adventure and enthusiasm, that's all great. But the key pieces to that recipe, to me, is compassion, communication, and accountability. Because it's easy to me to have the freedom part and the venture, the fun part, and be enthusiastic about it, or even being courageous and to step to a person. But when you add compassion and people you understand what that means, and communication going in and out twofold, and compassion twofold, and accountability twofold, that's where it's not just fun and games. It's about a real, authentic, dual commitment.
Amen.
And that's love. And that's love. Because it shouldn't be one-sided. One shouldn't just feel love. It should be for the giver and the receiver.
Right. That's beautiful. Is there anything that hasn't come up in this conversation about you that challenges the stereotype of Black men, or that, something that's unique about you that we haven't touched on yet?
Yes. That, I would say, since you added, we haven't touched on it yet, I would say, because it's been said that Black men are loud, and I'm not loud, I'm quiet. And they say Black men are lazy, and I'm not lazy. So I'm quiet, and I'm not lazy.
And just for the fun of it, give me another word. So if you're not lazy, what are you?
I am, it's right on the tip of my tongue. I am I'm a team player.
Cool.
I hold my end of the stick. I don't drop the ball. Like, you don't have to carry the weight of it all. I'm an active participant in whatever it is, in the relationship, in this thing called life, in the race struggle, in it all. So lazy, not lazy in participating in the evolution of life, of the world, and not just for me, but for everyone.
I love that. So now that we've had this conversation, and I just love this conversation. Now that we've had this conversation, is there anything that you're now aware of, thinking about, or see newly?
One of the things that adds more strength to me after this conversation is your contribution to this conversation and the things that you shared. So now I know that another person is not so much that just on the same side of issues that I am, but that is an active participant in the issues. Because it's one thing to assume things, but when you actually have a conversation with someone about it, then you know for sure. So you don't have to, it goes back to my four agreements, don't make assumptions. So I don't need to assume, like your words are, to me, your accountability on these issues. I don't have to assume because of the color of your skin, you feel this certain way about certain things. It's hearing it directly from the person's mouth.
That's great. And it's like if I wanted a exclamation mark on why I want to hear from 365 Black men, you just said it for me. So thank you. So Moon, I'm leaving this conversation feeling like I have a kindred spirit that I didn't know was a kindred spirit. I love how connected you are, how spiritual you are, how willing you are to have your spirituality be defined by your experience of it, by your truth, and that you bring that into all of your relationships, every interaction. It's so clear in everything that you share today that you recognize you are spirit walking, and you do that with a joy and with accountability, as you talked about. In fact, I would go so far as to say every single thing that you said love is how you walk in the world. And so I thank you for being that bold, spiritual Black man who cannot be defined by any stereotype. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening. As you can hear, you do not want to miss any of these brothers. Make sure you subscribe. You can find more at our website, 365brothers.com, 365brothers.com. This is Robin Shine. To listen is to love.